And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 23 of Talking Tech, the weekly podcast from MobileTechTalk. I am your host, Dom Lamberti, and this week we have not Chris and Mark, we have Mark and Greg. So say hello, guys.
Hello,
Hello.
guys.
So Greg is the editor-in-chief of Eurotech Talk. He is joining us this week. I let Chris take the week off. I've been driving him a bit hard lately, and I felt a bit bad about it. So we were actually going to have Kurt here, and then Greg filled in at the last minute. So thank you, Greg.
Which is now the second time that's happened.
Yes, yes, it is. I'd like to point that out. Thank you. Well, don't worry, we'll make Kurt feel bad on a different occasion. And of course, Mark is here as always. Hello, thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
So, I'm actually quite excited about some of the stuff this week. Obviously, we took the last week off. I was very unwell last week. I actually ended up in A&E. Kind of been quite literally exhausted in the medical term, like bedridden and housebound. So we've got like 2 weeks worth of stuff to catch up on. So I think we should just jump straight into it. This first one is kind of, apparently I'm the only one that's interested in it. So Google released the mode, or the standard mode, which is interchangeable watch straps, which sounds silly because we've had watch straps for a while. We've had quick release watch bands, which I have on my Pebble here, which have little pins that you just pop out and then you can take the strap off. These are slightly different. So does anyone want to say that while I try and put this watch strap back on?
Well, I don't know. The only thing I was just wondering when you were saying that, are they getting the girl from Ugly Betty in to come and do the advertising for it?
Which one? The actual Ugly Betty?
Yeah.
America Ferrera.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I obviously watched it more than you that did because you didn't get the mode reference.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah.
I actually really like that show, and now I think I'm going to see if I can find it anywhere to watch. But no, yeah. So basically, the way the mode system works is, instead of having the pin embedded in the strap, such as the quick release pins do now, it comes with a little tool for you to put the bar on the watch itself, and on the strap there is just a little latch that you can just clip on and clip off, so the bar actually stays in place on the watch. And you essentially just clip the straps on. This is quite interesting. It's kind of Google's what's it called? Counter argument to what Apple's done with their quick release bands. So I know, Greg, you've got an Apple Watch, and you were saying just before we went live, one of the things you like is the quick release strap. So you have a leather. You have leather one on, and when you go to the gym, you quickly swap it for the silicone one. Could you see yourself doing, if you didn't have an Apple Watch, doing something similar with this, buying a silicone strap and a leather strap and just popping them off?
Yeah, it's certainly something that was missing from the Android Wear watches. Definitely the first sort of generations of watches. I had a Gear Live or whatever, the slightly more curved one.
Mm-hmm.
And that certainly could have done with an option to switch bands and stuff, because you're either stuck with like a silicone band or a leather band or something with a Moto 360. I guess it's not impossible to swap the straps. It only takes a couple of minutes or so, but convenience is convenience, isn't it?
Yeah, and that is it. Like I said, I've got the Pebble Time Steel here, and it has watch straps with those quick release pins in, but that is still strap dependent. The strap has to have the pin built in with the cutout for the little lever, whereas obviously these are still strap dependent. You have to buy these. I think it's $50 for a silicone strap and $60 for a leather strap. But it's an open standard, and people can license the clip itself and then build it into whatever they want. So we'll see cheaper silicone straps. We'll see more expensive leather straps. We'll probably see steel link straps in the not too distant future. All things like that. And like you said, convenience is key. And as convenient as these quick release pins are, this is more convenient.
Okay, can I ask?
Most certainly.
Is Velcro more convenient than tying shoelaces?
Yes.
Why don't you use Velcro on your shoes then?
Because I'm an adult.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because I have more pairs of shoes and I have different shoes for different occasions. I also have different watches for different occasions.
Well, they can't all be Velcro.
No.
No, I just feel that it's like, okay, they've made something. It's good. It's clever. It is, more user friendly than the outgoing system. I just don't think the old system is that much of a problem that this is a big issue that needs to be fixed. I don't see it making any impact.
It definitely depends on the person. If you are a person that changes watch straps often, this will probably be. I don't know. I guess it very much depends because you won't be able to use any of your current watch straps with this. You'll have to buy entirely new straps.
Yeah, I don't see somebody going out of the way to use this. If it comes with it, yeah, maybe. But
I mean, I guess it also depends on the watch itself. Like I said, I have a Pebble, but I don't wear it when I go out for dinner, or I have like nice watches. I know a lot of people have Apple Watches and do the same thing. Whilst it might be nice for their casual stuff, but if they're going out to the theatre, or if they're going to see a play, if they're going for dinner with their partners, they'll put on a proper dress watch. They even though they can change the straps, they'd rather have something that doesn't buzz every 5 seconds and them looking down. So I just thought it was interesting. I will probably buy one, probably purely for curiosity's sake, but I'm personally very interested for the smart strap for the Pebble that brings contactless payments. I'm very interested.
Is there any
for that.
indication of where they're going to be available? Because I'm presuming, like most things Google, it might be US only.
I think it's going to be Google Store at the moment with these initial ones, but like I said, it's an open standard. So Hadley Roma is making these silicon and leather bands, so they're the first partner that Google has done with. So I believe they're going to be on the Google Store. But yeah, anyone will potentially be able to make them. They come in 16, 18, 20, and 22 millimeters. So if your watch has any of those, and again, these aren't limited to smartwatches. If you have a normal watch, like I have a really nice like Armani watch. If I wanted to wear the Armani watch but change and put for some reason a silicon strap on it, I could technically do that with this. Again, because they work with pins and they are standard sizes. So, and again, that is I think that's the boon here. Is it's not just for Android Wear. This is an open standard for anything that uses between 16 and 22 mil watch straps or watches. So yeah, like I said, it's one of those things. I want to Amazon and Google Store, by the way, is where they'll be.
Right.
Whether that's Amazon US and Google Store US, we have no idea. But Amazon and Google Store. Okay, so Mark, you're the one that kind of put this next one up. Do you wanna speak about this?
Right, which is the next one? You're right. Apple earnings. Yeah, going back to they had their earnings announcement a couple of weeks ago now, and essentially every important metric showed that they were in decline, which is I don't know whether the article kind of states this as being for the first time, but not really. I mean, those that are older remember there was a time when Apple was, borderline bankrupt.
More than once.
Oh yeah. But certainly since iPhone and iPod times, where Apple has become this gigantic monolithic cult, sales have dropped, including iPhone sales. Which again is, I think, could be the first time it's declined in the quarter of release, I think it was.
Yeah, so Greg, you're kind of the more Apple-focused person amongst us here, as in you're the only one that uses an iPhone. Are you surprised at all by this, or?
No, not at all. I mean, Apple earnings and I suppose everybody else's earnings is always a complete non-story for normal consumers, and people get like emotionally involved in who's earning more money and who's worth more money and stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, what it all boils down to is there's only so many people you can sell an iPhone to, isn't there?
Yeah, and I guess like 7 years on, no, more than that.
Yeah, it's been 13 quarters, so I think it's pushing nigh on 10 years. They've been growing and growing and growing and growing and growing.
2007. So yeah, like next year it will be a decade.
Yeah.
Since the iPhone originally went on sale, which is a long time, and it's kind of making me feel a bit old. But I still think that, I don't know. I think
at the end of the day, they still
iPhone,
sold 50 million of the things.
Yeah, they still sold a lot. It plunged to 51.2 million.
Yeah, and I think kind of the key issue is that it dropped by 10 million. I mean, it went from 61.2 to 51.2. That's not a slight drop. Proportionally, that's big.
Yeah, and I think that's the news here, is like people like sell less of things all the time. When it's this, like 10 million is still a lot. That's like, it's a lot. It's a big difference. It's a noticeable difference. 10 million units is, no matter which way you cut it, a lot. And even if Apple has in a few quarters sold less than before, they've not sold, I think we'll call it 13%.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were saying basically if you remove the times when they brought out a bigger screen, it shows just kind of steady growth. I mean, I think they're slightly a victim to their own success because people maybe hold back waiting for the bigger screen that was coming and coming and coming. And China especially was a massive boom at the time. But I mean, when you're still talking about making like almost £1 billion a week, like these doom and gloom people that seem to think Apple's going nowhere. I mean, one guy sold all his Apple stock.
Yeah, wasn't that Carl Icahn?
Yeah, I mean, he's a bit of a thorn in the side to anybody that he kind of holds any stock in. He's one of those guys that kind of tries to make money for investors rather than
he's an activist investor.
Yeah. Basically, and I think that will probably aid Apple in the long run for him to actually shut up about Apple.
I think he's one of those there's actually a lot of them now. A lot of people know that the stock market is not on what you have, it's what people think you have. It's very much runs on speculation, and having people like Carl Icahn and also Gene Munster and people like that, they can, like you said, be a boon to a company, or they can be a real thorn in the side. And like I said, whether or not Apple is in trouble is up for debate. But like I said,
let's not forget they still increase the amount of money they've put aside to buy back shares, and eventually, what most people think are going to
do a complete buyback,
private, and also increase the amount of money they put aside to pay investors. So it's just a complete non-story at the moment. I mean, if they carry on declining, people might start to get worried. But the real thing to take away from it really is, why would Tim Cook appear on whatever it is, the random stocks guy in America, that sell, to kind of try and justify the things. I mean, would you see Steve Jobs coming out the day after the earnings, kind of going, "Oh no, guys, it's fine"?
I'm trying to find out what the current share price of Apple is. 92
ridiculous,
it's just under $100
down. Yeah.
As of yesterday to today, it's 0.2%. But yeah, it's $92.9 or $92.90 a share, which is actually quite low for Apple. To put that in perspective, Microsoft is $50 a share.
Yeah.
Alphabet. The actual share price of an individual share is meaningless.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I mean, Alphabet is $718 a share.
Yeah.
Just in case you're wondering, the three.
I mean, the stock market is just a complete mess, really. I mean, Wall Street, all they're interested in is growth. They just want to see, if I buy this share, are you going to grow so I can sell it for a profit in the future? If not, as with everybody else in the market, let's look at revenue. Whereas with Apple, It's all about profit, and that's it. Just while Dom dies, I suppose we best. I think he's seriously in trouble.
I'm sure it's just choking a little.
Yeah, if he falls on the floor, we'll start to get worried.
Yes. But yeah, just to point out though that the individual share prices for those companies are all meaningless because your individual share cap price can be basically anything you want. What really matters is the total market cap, and I don't have those to hand. But I think it was also fairly recently that Apple lost its spot as the most valuable company on earth.
Yeah, last time they did the earnings call, yeah, they were surpassed and then kind of took it back and now are well and truly behind Alphabet.
Are they? I thought it was Exxon that surpassed them.
Oh, was it? Oh, I don't know. I mean, they were last earnings call. They were kind of toing and froing with Alphabet, who was the most sort of. Maybe they were just talking tech companies. But...
Yeah, could be. But I think kind of the takeaway from this story is I think it is the beginning of the end of sort of the growth of Apple. I've long believed that their highly locked down OS experience is something that in the long term just won't work because most people want to have choice. And there's a great deal of people who are just happy to take what they're given, do as they're told, and just follow orders. And if you're told this is what you've got and that's it and you're going to shut up and like it, well, lots of people will do that. But I think when it comes down to the sales and also the fact that Apple are now coming out with a much cheaper handset by their standards, is beginning to point out to lots of people the same as what happened in the computer market is, I think the time is behind us when you absolutely need the shiniest, fastest, best, because it's the only way you'll get a good experience. Now I think mid-range handsets are good enough, £100, £200, that people that can use them and be happy with them. And eventually they're going to say, well, do I need a £600 iPhone? I can have this £200 phone and go and have a week in Ibiza.
Yeah, and we know which one we'd rather choose.
Well, I wouldn't choose Ibiza, but
I personally can't think of anything worse than going to Ibiza, but I just hate people, so there we go.
Well, I'm just thinking, for iPhone buyers.
I would completely agree. I mean, that you only have to look at. I mean, we might as well kind of skip one and cover the iPad while we're talking about Apple earnings, but that's kind of the epitome of what you're talking about. The recycle periods or the upgrade periods that people will put up with now are far, far longer, and the prices that people will pay out now are far, far less than what they used to be.
Oh, yeah, case in point, my mum still has an iPad too. Yeah,
well, why most iPads are media consumption devices for watching Netflix or whatever in bed or on the sofa or whatever, surfing the internet.
Facebook and eBay.
So why would you buy anything else other than for enterprise use?
Well, that's the thing. You don't. You just, it's the same thing that I've said many times before. It happened with the computer market. There used to be a time back in the day where, especially businesses, they would upgrade computers every 2 or 3 years because they had to, because it made an appreciable impact. Now, companies are like 5 years old, whatever, who cares?
Well, this is kind of my forte. In the last 5 years, Intel has maybe improved CPU performance, maybe 50%. It's been 5 to 10% per generation. What they've really done is improve power consumption. So whilst actual performance hasn't gone up that much, power consumption has gone down a lot. But like you're saying, when you're buying thousands of devices in one go, you're not really gonna.
No, I mean, how much CPU power do you need
to run
pull up
spreadsheets,
Facebook and run Word?
Exactly.
Even Excel, even running, million by million cell spreadsheets, pretty much any CPU you throw at it will do it, no problem.
So what Greg was saying when he brought up the thing about iPads is iPad sales have fallen for 9 straight quarters, which is 2 years and 3 months, which is almost half the life of the iPad itself. Its sales have been falling. Just think about that in pure numbers on its own. The iPad is nearly 5 years old, and nearly half of that life, its sales have been falling. That is insane. Like,
Yeah.
there's not much more to say about that. Like I said, my sister recently upgraded her original Mini to a Mini 4. She'll probably be fine until the Mini no longer exists, to be honest. My mum's only just thinking about getting a new tablet. She's not thinking about getting a new iPad, just a new tablet. Like,
Yeah, the things that people do with a tablet, they do not need massive power.
no.
They
She's like,
just don't.
her words were, why do I spend hundreds of pounds on an iPad where I can buy the £200 Samsung one that does the same? Now, she might feel differently after a couple of months with the Samsung one, but...
Well, maybe not, because with the Samsung one, you can always install AdBlock nice and easily.
Yeah, but I meant more like the hardware design. Like the iPad 2 is metal, it's thin, it's light. The Samsung is plastic. Blah blah blah. But like I was saying, that the fact that pretty much half the iPad's life, its sales have been dropping, it's strange to me how much people attribute the iPad to Apple's recent success when you see numbers like this.
Yeah, I honestly don't think even Apple know where or what to do with the iPad. I mean, when they launched it, Steve Jobs made this big deal about it filling the void between phone and computer.
Is there a void?
Which nobody really. I mean, it was universally panned, and people just said, "Oh, well, this is just pointless because it's just a non-device." But Steve Jobs did have that kind of reality distortion field to kind of at least get some.
Well, I
people
don't know.
to start
I
using
think
it,
the one thing that I would give Apple credit for, and it's one of the very few things I would give them credit for, is when they came out with the iPad, the complaint everybody had initially was, "This is a phone OS. I want a real OS on it." And
Yeah.
Apple were right. That a mobile OS is better on a tablet than sticking on real Windows.
I 100% agree, which is why I
Yeah.
was so upset that we're only just seeing what's called Project Centennial, which is a Windows initiative to bring Win32 apps, so like Windows apps, to the Windows Store. Where was that when Windows RT launched? That could have been
Never going to go anywhere.
I disagree. If Project Centennial was in place back then, and way more apps would have been in that app store, it would have been a completely different story. There was also other problems it had, like the user. If you were in tablet mode, you should have never seen the Windows desktop. But anyway, like you were saying, Apple had it right. You don't need a full. You shouldn't have OS 10 on a 9.7 screen.
No, a tablet is not a professional grown-up product that you're going to do real work in. It's something you dick around on eBay or Facebook or Netflix. It's a toy.
I wouldn't quite go that far. There are a lot of people that do a lot of work on.
Yeah, I mean, my
monitor is
my
wigging
Air
out.
2 and now my iPad Pro is my primary computer, really. There's just certain things that I can't get done on it, so I have to have a MacBook. But I can kind of see where you're coming from, yeah. The vast majority of devices spend their time just browsing the web. Like the old netbook market, that's where the iPad sits for most people.
The iPad took over netbooks. Honestly, I think Chromebooks are taking a lot of iPad sales, just because they're so damn cheap. Just because they're.
No.
That's like a personal. I could be very, very wrong.
biggest thing that's cannibalizing iPad sales, I think, is bigger and bigger phones.
Also, the fact that, like you were saying, people have already got iPads and they don't
Yeah.
need to upgrade them that often.
Yeah. There's just no need to. I mean, the resolution hasn't really improved. There's no real benefit to the battery life. You only need so much processing power to watch Netflix and browse the internet.
Yeah,
Why would you upgrade?
They're hit fundamental limits, like you're saying with the resolution hasn't improved because, well, why? What possible benefit would there be to improve it? There isn't. Same with the CPU. If the CPU was 100 times faster, well, big whoop. Facebook is still Facebook.
And like a lot of the things on the perceived lag or slowdown on iOS is the animations and stuff. So like I said,
it's just the increased complexity of the OS, really. That's all.
Yeah, if you turn off animations on your iPhone or iPad, it will feel a lot faster, but it doesn't seem as smooth, obviously, because the animations help smooth things out. Like visually, that's what they're there for. Something starts in A and goes to B. The bit in between is where it ramps up. If you take the ramp up out, it goes from A, bang. You take the animation out, sure, it happens faster, but it doesn't look as nice. That's why we're seeing a lot of fingerprint sensors. The Oppo F1 Plus, which is actually something happening later on in this, fingerprint sensor a lot faster. But when you see, like, because there have been people that have done like slow-mo fingerprint sensor tests between it and the iPhone, a lot of the iPhone's perceived slowdown is, in fact, the screen is on, you're just waiting for the icons to flow down onto the screen. And I'm one of those people that hates that flow in and out thing. But yeah, like animations are probably it's not actual slowdown, it's intentional slowdown, essentially.
Yep.
Mark, do you want to speak about this next one, seeing as this is probably what you were ranting about before the podcast even started?
Right. Sorry, which one is the next one?
Apple Music.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, there are 13 million people apparently paying Apple for Apple Music. I wonder, of those 13 million, how many of those are actually making a conscious choice to pay for it, or did they just sign up for the free subscription and forgot all about it? Because I'm betting at least 12.9 million. Because Apple Music is maybe it's improved since I tried it, but holy shit, it's unbelievably fucking bad. And if there are 13 million people paying Apple Music for this, then like seriously, please try any other service. Any other service, I guarantee you, it will be better than Apple Music.
I haven't tried I haven't tried Google Music on an iOS device, but then again, I haven't tried Apple Music on an Android device. If I had,
the problem isn't how it functions. The problem is its inability to produce music that you don't hate. It constantly seemed to think the only song I really wanted to hear was the "Fuck You Google Plus" song. Yep, it played that several times to me. I think at least 3. But generally, just the amount of the music that it would spit out at me seemed to have absolutely no rhyme, no reason. The fact that Apple have, thanks to iTunes and their genius, regularly uploads and tells them every single piece of music that I listen to, they still couldn't pick anything that I went, oh, what's that? I like that. Got it. I didn't know this person, didn't know that song. And go and look it up. All it had me doing was thinking, oh my god, this is awful. I fucking hate this. Oh look, Disney, right? Let's only make it play Disney songs at me, because at least then I won't find anything I find orally offensive.
That's pretty much how I felt about Deezer, to be honest.
Well, you're wrong.
I mean, like, I could tell it all the artists I liked, all the styles of music I liked, and I'd like type in like a song from, say, My Chemical Romance or Fall Out Boy, and I'd find like covers of it instead of like the actual band. Like the name of the song, I'd find covers instead of the real thing. And I was like, what the? So I'd thumbs down the stuff I didn't want, but I'd still get it coming back, and I was like, what is the? I got a 3-month free trial, and I cancelled it in less than a week. Like, put it that way.
I think you maybe were just using Deezer wrong. Deezer, I felt, worked much, much better when you just kind of let it go on random exploration, rather than using it like you would Spotify, where you tell it, I want to listen to blah blah. But anyway, sorry, that's going off track. Apple Music, yes. 13 million people, they all need hearing tests.
Greg, have you tried Apple Music? Because I haven't.
Yeah.
I can't say either which way. I usually delegate audio tasks to Mark, since he's our resident audio man. So what's your thoughts on Apple Music?
Yeah, I mean, I pay for Apple Music, but I also have to pay for Spotify to actually discover new music, because that's the massive thing that lets Apple Music down. The only real reason I pay for Apple Music is just pure convenience, because I can go, hey Siri, play me some X. And now I've just set my phone off, obviously.
I think you're the only person that Hey Siri works for.
Which is
Hey
a lot
Siri, Google Now, Hey Cortana, and Alexa. There we go. Sorry, I thought I'd set every mobile assistant off while we were at it. But no, I know where you're at, because again I do the okay Google play me some Fall Out Boy, or okay Google play me some Daft Punk. I'll do that, and luckily I've turned all my phones off. But if you didn't, you've now got Daft Punk or Fall Out Boy playing. Enjoy that. The ability to have that the built-in assistant that works so well with a first-party application is really good. Something that I'm really happy that Google did in Marshmallow was let you change the default assistant. So if you have Cortana installed, you can go into the settings in Android Marshmallow and make Cortana the default assistant instead of Google Now. So you can just say, "Hey Cortana, play me Daft Punk," and it will come up instead of that. So that's quite interesting. From what we're hearing, Apple Music is also getting a essentially ground up redesign.
It's supposed to have been coming for quite a while. Yeah.
Because if we're honest, what Apple Music is at the moment is it's Beats Music quickly tacked onto the iOS music player, and very badly tacked on, if we're honest.
It's essentially the music app with Beats Music glued on the side. They obviously didn't spend much work in the year between acquiring Beats and rolling out Apple Music doing any actual work to what matters to the customers.
No.
Shocking.
I'll maybe give it a go when it relaunches, but honestly, I see no reason to at the moment. The only reason I'm a Google Play Music subscriber. The problem with Google Play Music, as I've said over and over again, is its asinine deauthorization limit. It lets you authorize 10 devices per year and deauthorize 4 of them per year. And as a phone reviewer, I have personally had more than 4 devices on my desk this month.
Yeah. This is such a strange issue, because whilst we realise that for most normal people it's not an issue.
Yeah.
Why Google do it in the first place? The only people you're pissing off are phone reviewers, crazy tech people who like you and like you want to use your stuff, and you punish them.
It's actually a really good app. I really enjoy Google Music, and do you know what it forces me to do? It forces me to use Microsoft Groove Music, because it is essentially the same thing. It gives me a cloud locker where I can put my own music, which is what I've done. I've mirrored my library in Google Play Music, Microsoft Groove, and I can stream my own music when, for whatever reason, I can't pay that month. So I have to have Google Play Music and Microsoft Groove Music installed on my devices, because on review devices I can't use Google Play Music. And it sucks because the discoverability on Groove is terrible. The algorithms for what I want to listen to next is rubbish. The automatic playlist is rubbish. The only good thing is it has really good, decent pricing, and the fact that I can pay for a year up front. That's one thing Microsoft is really good at. It's like you can either buy a month, you can buy 6 months, or you can buy a year. You can buy a year and we'll only charge you for 10 months. That's what Microsoft is really good for.
Monetizing.
Yeah.
One thing that might start to bother Apple Music, I guess, if they carry on getting people, I'm guessing they will eventually bump up against the EU for antitrust.
Oh, more than likely.
Especially seeing as they charge Spotify and whatever, they charge a higher price if you buy it through Apple than they do if you actually buy it directly.
Which
So I'm
I
pretty sure
think
that's anti-competitive.
is Netflix doing the same thing? Because I know Apple
Well,
and
yeah,
Google, they ask for different amounts. I think Apple asks for 30%, and if you're someone like Netflix, you get 15% instead. But I know this is why Kindle doesn't you can't buy Kindle books through the Kindle app on iOS because Apple takes 30%, which is why it's
Or
really
Google Play Movies or anything like that either.
yeah, because they're the conduit, they ask for X amount. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Google really doesn't need more reason to be investigated for antitrust, but
Yeah, I think basically the reason Apple Music has 13 million subscribers is because there's like hundreds of millions of devices out there. So 13 million is probably a really small percentage.
and like Mark said, the amount of people that sign up for the free trial and probably forgot to cancel is probably quite significantly high.
Yeah.
I know of at least 3 people that have done that.
Yeah, it is the reason companies will give out not just a month, but they'll give you a 3-month, because even if you hate it, by the end of the 3 months, you've stopped using it. You haven't used it in 2.5 months. You've forgotten all about it.
Case in point, Vessel. They gave me a year up front. Like a year of upfront service.
Amazon are notorious, aren't they, for giving you Prime free trials and then 79 quid's gone out your bank.
Yeah, but Prime is legitimately good. There's a difference.
Mm.
I don't miss that 80 quid.
Depends how much stuff you order off Amazon.
Yeah, the amount of shit I order off Amazon, like 80 quid, the amount I save like that much in shipping alone. Because those of you who don't have Prime, shipping on Amazon is fucking horrendous. Like, if I buy something on Amazon for a tenner, the shipping can easily come to like another 50 to 80% of that, just depending on where it's coming from.
Unless you take the I don't care when it shows up.
Yeah, but if I'm buying something from Amazon, I generally want it quite quick. That's like it. So, but being a student, I get Amazon Prime for like 50 quid, so whatever. This next one is actually kind of annoying to me. Because I was genuinely going to buy one of these, and now I'm just not. So Jide is made up of a couple of people from, I think, Google and HTC. They made the Remix Ultra, which is a Surface Pro knockoff, and then they made the Remix Mini, which is just like a mini PC. They're running ARM. It's running a forked version of Android, which is essentially trying to make it more Windows-like. It's got a taskbar, it's got an app launcher, all of that things. And because there was a few incompatibilities, at Google, running our companies here, Google has asked Jide to remove Google Mobile Services because of the issues. And I'm going to mute here because I'm about to cough today.
Not really surprising, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of an interesting one, because for all that Google likes to generally appear as the great benevolent tech dictator of the world, Google actually it does get really arsey about including the Google apps on Android.
You have to go to the CTS, the Compatibility Test Suite. If you don't pass the CTS, you can't get GMS.
Yes. So essentially, I'm sure Google has lots of specific things, but essentially it's the Ask Kiss Google. And this is why lots of Android devices that come out of China, they don't have the Play Store and they don't have all the other Google apps because they're not prepared to kiss Google's bottom.
Also, where the homeland is, Google support is banned.
Yeah, but also bear in mind, for those that play about with Cyanogen, Cyanogen has had potential issues with Google every now and again in the past, where Google has indicated that Google will get very upset and has forced them to remove all the Google apps from their ROM. You can, however, still install all the Google apps separately, and Google don't seem to mind you doing that. But it does mean that if you install Cyanogen or pretty much any ROM, you then have to go and install the Google apps separately.
Yeah, no, I remember. I think it was with like CM7 or something like that. Was when like Google like dropped the hammer and said like no more included Google Play for you, because the user base got to a certain size, and then like you could be providing a subpar experience to your users, which they then may blame on us because our things will not work because you've changed things. Which, now that I think about it, makes no fucking sense as to how Huawei have managed to pass CTS, seeing as their fucking notification shade seems to break so many notifications.
I think it just points out it's really not about compatibility. It's really about ass-kissing Google and giving them money.
I mean, it's both. It is most definitely both, because if they wanted, like, Amazon could make the Fire tablets that have Google Play. Like, it's not that they can't pass the CTS, it's Amazon's not submitting them for the CTS. Because if Jide got CTS approval once, they can get it again. And Jide, the Remix OS, is very heavily modified Android. It's not how heavily you modify Android, it's how far you deviate but still don't break things. Fire OS is so close to stock Android. It's just pretty much at this point a different launcher. So it's like super annoying to me. But I get it. Like, this is something that doesn't have a touchscreen. The Remix Mini, it doesn't have touchscreen. It's intentionally meant to change how things are done. So until they work some stuff out, it kind of makes sense that they were forced to remove Google services. That saying, you don't have to approve the update. You can stick on an older version of Remix. You just won't get any security patches. You won't get anything.
To be honest, I think it's going to be a non-issue. I think anyone who's buying these devices, they are going to be more than capable and more than happy to just go, fuck you, Google. Go Google GApps 8.apk and install their own. Install them anyway. And to be honest, I think more than anything, this is just Google getting pissy because there's a company looking at Android and saying, look, you could use this as a real goddamn operating system, while Google rather, stomp their little feet and go, no, goddamn it, use Chrome OS.
I mean, it's not quite that, because they've not disabled it on every Remix OS device. It's just the Remix Mini. If you got the tablet, that's fine, because it's got a touchscreen.
I think it's coming. I think this is Google just throwing a little bit of a tantrum.
We'll have to wait and see. Like I said, they provide this ROM to go on certain devices. I think the Nexus 9 and the Pixel C and a couple of other tablets have this ROM. And if you're doing it that way, you have to install the Google app separately anyway, like you said with SanjaMod. If you've got the tablet, it's fine. It's a touchscreen. It's just the Remix Mini that it specifically has issues with. Again, I was going to check one out. Now that I know that Google Mobile Services has been removed, I'm likely not. I was going to back the Kickstarter, and I'm kind of glad I didn't now. Yeah. Oh well.
We could be all conspiracy theorists about this and say, well, there is a floating Windows option in Android N. Could Google be just removing a competitor from the market?
They could be. And like we said, Jide is made up of ex-Google, ex-HTC, ex-whoever people. They could have... there was rumors a while ago that Google might buy Jide, just to have this as their kind of tablet operating system.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about Android anywhere, they've got to produce something really worthwhile on the desktop.
Yeah. I don't know. Should we just move on? Because I feel like we could talk about this forever and still kind of just go around in circles.
Sure.
This next one is actually quite interesting, pretty much only to me, because I'm getting one. I'm getting one into review. So, the Oppo F1 Plus is... I'll read the Android Central headline. Oppo F1 Plus review. iPhone S offers best yet. So it's pretty much an iPhone 6s Plus. Like, if you look at one next to an iPhone 6s Plus, there are a few differences, but not many. And that like, I don't care what you say, that is intentional. They're intentionally making this look like an iPhone. But like I said, that's not always a bad thing, and it's certainly in this case, they followed up every part of it so well that, like, their cons are uninspired design, ColorOS still has some flaws, and it's still on Lollipop. One of those can be, or two of those can be fixed. Still on Lollipop, easily be fixed with a new version of ColorOS. ColorOS, from what I hear, gets major updates like every couple of weeks. The only one that can't really be fixed is uninspired design, and that's intentional.
Oh yeah, I mean, it is. If you were to, stick a sticker on the back covering up the names, and you told somebody that was an iPhone 6, there is absolutely no reason they wouldn't think so.
Yeah, no, it's. Like I said, I'm getting one of these
apart
to
from the
review.
fact that it's got like 4 gigs of RAM and stuff in it, and and comes with 64 gig of storage and a micro SD card slot as standard. But yeah, visually, no, I mean it's
the only real difference is the fact that the fingerprint sensor / home button is ovular and not circular. And this is kind of nitpicky. If you look at the antenna line on the back, the one by the camera doesn't go straight through the camera, it actually goes under the circular camera lens. That is like kind of, and the Oppo logo on the back. That's kind of like it. I'm really excited to get one of these in, just because it's so interesting, like, how they can sell this. Like, intellectual property laws in China just must not exist.
No, they don't.
They cannot possibly exist if this is legally being sold and they are allowed to make the X number of million that they will sell. Like,
yeah, I mean, if you
Oppo is a big player. Like I think they recently just edged out Lenovo and Xiaomi as being like that number, like in the top 5. Oppo is big. The fact that even that they are allowed to do something this gross, like people say that Samsung copied like the iPhone design. No, this is worse.
Yeah, no.
I say worse. Like this is closer.
But no, if you ever look at some of the home pages of lots of the random named companies that come out of China that you kind of maybe vaguely heard of, they will quite happily use images from major Hollywood films, Disney stuff, you name it, Star Wars. They will just slap it in whatever, and they don't care. They're really intellectual property-wise in China, they just don't give a shit. Yeah. So I mean, that seems to be the only way that they could get away with doing this. But I think to some extent, also in the West, I think we've all kind of just accepted, well, okay, this might be a fairly obvious clone, but really, how different could it really look, even if you wanted?
Yeah, like I said, this is a very intentional clone. Like you said, there is very few ways you could design this, but like I said, this is obviously very much designed to deceive people.
Oh, it is, with the way that they've rounded all the corners and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very deliberate. It looks very similar. But, I mean, what is the most that they could do? Give it square corners?
Yeah. Like we were saying, not always a bad thing, because there are a lot of companies that do try to, that try and emulate the hardware design of iOS devices, but don't necessarily follow up with the rest of the experience. Oppo seems to be one of the few that really is. I'd say the only real one to do that is Xiaomi, which MIUI, or MyUI, I don't know how you say it, is it's probably the closest iOS clone I've seen. But the hardware design has moved further away from iPhones as we've gotten each generation. As I said, I'm excited to get one of these into a review purely because I said it's got one of the best hardware fingerprint sensors I've seen, despite being in my least favorite place, which is the front. Uh, Despite being 5.5 inches, which for me is too big, I'm really excited to check out their fast charging standard, which is it's called VOOC, VOOC, which is 5 volts at 4 amps.
Yeah.
4 amps is fucking insane.
I would say use it only with the cable that comes in the box. Do not let any other cable near it.
Well, it won't work with any other cable because
Because all the
VOOC
other cables will melt.
apart from the fact that they'll all melt because they're not thick enough gauge wire, VOOC still uses micro USB. It uses the expanded pin set, which is 7 pins, an extra one on either side, rather than the 5 pin that micro USB standard uses. So I'm really excited to get one of these in. I don't think they're sending me the gold one, unfortunately. I say unfortunately. I always whenever
not the gold fund.
I mean, like, Alcatel sent me a gold Idol 3, and
I think the reason companies send the gold ones is so that nobody wants to steal them.
Yeah, pretty much. When I'm offered the gold one, I tend to say no, but I think I'm kind of a little bit upset they don't offer the gold one this time. Speaking of the companies that offered me gold and I turned one down, the Huawei P9. Our review, and I say our as in MobileTechTalk, our review is going up tomorrow if you're listening live. It is going up tomorrow, the 10th of May. So iFixit got their hands on the Huawei P9, and they found out some interesting things. One is the fact that its special camera module setup is actually smaller, and by say smaller I mean thinner, than that of the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus. Also, it is the only device that's not made by Apple to use pentalobe screws, which the founder of iFixit just ripped into Huawei about on Wired. Thoughts?
Well, this could go back to the story we had at the beginning. Apple sold 10 million less iPhones. So, I mean, how many pentalobe screws would that leave around?
Depends how many Liam's recovered from recycling old ones as well.
Yeah, I mean, how many screws is pentalobe screws goes into an iPhone times 10 million? They maybe went to Huawei. Give them 50 quid, you can have the lot.
Like I said, I really enjoyed my P9. I really wish I didn't have to send it back despite EMUI. Watching I was reading the teardown review. I assume there'll be a video version at some point. There tends to be for the higher profile devices. Amazing how some things were so close to tearing down an iPhone and how things were so far away from tearing down an iPhone, if that makes sense. It was just interesting to me. The fact that the camera module itself was smaller was the bit that made the iPhone bigger was the fact that it still has the camera bump, which why it still has the camera bump is beyond me. It's been proven that even with the same sensor on a thinner phone, you don't need to have the hump. I think Apple kind of just want it there because reasons. I mean, they even put the hump on the iPad Pro, didn't they, Greg?
It's on the smaller iPad Pro, yes.
Yeah,
because
the smaller Pro's got the same sensor as this.
Yes.
Yeah. So, like I said, something so close, something so far. But like I said, I recently had a Huawei P9. I know, Greg, you still have yours.
Yes.
Quick thoughts?
Yeah, great device. Very, very iPhone-like. It's the first Android device I'd used for a while, so I was a bit sort of skeptical to start with, but as it turns out, I was probably using something about as close to as an iPhone as I could get. I had major issues with notifications, but once I managed to kind of negotiate that or just put up with it on some apps, very, very nice device to use. Camera is fantastic. It's a little bit sketchy in low light, but then what camera isn't? But I managed to get some really, really good shots with it.
Yeah,
the build quality is great. Really, really good.
There was a lot of conjecture floating around over the last week or so that the Leica branding was bullshit, that it was just shilling. I can say that
Funny
without a
anything,
shadow of a
it's just
doubt, it is not. Because having used prior Huawei devices, no one improves that much in a single generation over just, oh, we learnt this in a year. No, if you suddenly, 1 year from the next, collaborated with a major camera manufacturer and suddenly your images are 10x better, it's more than they're just slapping a name on something. The Leica branding is most certainly worth something, even if it's not quite as much as some people wanted. And this is something I actually address in my review, which, like I said, is going live tomorrow. Yeah, I don't think there's much more to say. The camera was really great. The monochrome mode, which I was kind of expecting to be bored with after like a day or two, I found myself using a lot, because there are some things that they'll look okay in color, but they look really, really great in black and white. And I found myself noticing that I was thinking about that more. Because I had a device with a great camera, I was thinking more along the lines of, I wonder if I can get that shot or not, which is not something I've thought of in a while. So, one thing that, again, I'm trying to think of, what's it called? Segues here, and I just can't. So, fingerprint sensors. LG, like Samsung, has a lot of subdivisions. LG Innotek is one of LG's subdivisions, and it's kind of like their Skunkworks lab type place. LG Innotek has they've made a fingerprint sensor that can be embedded under glass, so you don't have to have, I don't have any devices with me that have fingerprint sensors on them, bollocks. You don't have to have a separate button or a cutout. You could just have it, well, under the glass, which is something that we were saying a little while ago, is that if I could have the, there you go, Mark's got one there, on the Elephone P8000.
Indeed, yes. It is. I think it's the only thing I have that has a fingerprint sensor.
Which you don't use.
No, I don't use security on any of them.
Yeah. So what could potentially happen? This is a BQ Aquarius X5. This has capacitive buttons on the bottom. If this didn't, and they made the bezel smaller, because please, dear God, make the bottom bezel on the phone smaller, they could just have the sensor embedded under the glass and maybe a thin strip of LEDs that only illuminate when, just to like show you roughly where it is. This is quite interesting. They're not the only one to do it. Qualcomm has some technology called Sense ID, which is an ultrasonic fingerprint technology that, again, can be implemented under glass. Fingerprint Cards, which is I think the world's largest fingerprint sensor manufacturer. They manufacture the sensors in the new Nexus phones, in all the Huawei phones, the OnePlus 2, pretty much everything that's not a Samsung or an iPhone uses a fingerprint cards sensor. Samsung uses Synaptics, and Apple makes their own because they bought Authentech, I think, in 2010 or 11. This is this is interesting to me because it's super nerdy, but I want to know what you two think.
I think that this is sort of interesting because in the future, it might be something. This might start coming into devices, might start being placed in, different places, something maybe slightly unusual. I would somehow like to see an OLED overlay get in between this sensor and the glass, so that you could have, it maybe just, at the corner of the screen. That would be great.
What this would be great for would be laptop touchpads. So, there are a lot of laptops that have fingerprint sensors. They have the old swipe-style ones off to the side. If you could just put this in the top corner of there, boom. It's one less thing it doesn't have to look as ugly, especially business
I really
laptops.
Don't want things that make me touch my laptop screen. No.
I'm not talking about screen. I'm talking about the touchpad.
Oh,
which
that
is
maybe. But I don't want a glass touchpad if I don't have to.
Really? I can't stand plastic touchpads on laptops. The glass one is the best.
I mean, to be honest, I can't stand touchpads.
Oh, okay. You're one of those people.
Yeah, I have I don't know. There's not one to have. No, there's one. There.
There you
Little
go.
laptop, Bluetooth mice. Yeah, I think this is interesting because in 2 years' time it might matter and it might mean something. Right now, yeah, it's a theoretical. We've invented something, and now we need to find places to actually stick it.
And I think that definitely makes sense because, as I said, Qualcomm announced something called Sense ID about 2 or 3 years ago now. I think it was with the original Snapdragon 800, where they were just like, "Yo, we could do this under glass. Your entire touchscreen could become your fingerprint sensor." And they've slowly, tuned it down to lower expectations over the years. And we haven't heard anything about it for a little while. It still exists. Greg, what do you think? Again, you use an iPhone, so you're used to probably one of the best fingerprint sensors there is, despite being in my least favorite place on a device. What would you think if Apple made the next MacBook have Touch ID in the Force Touch trackpad? Would you buy? Would that be an upgrade you'd be willing to be part of?
I wouldn't buy a MacBook purely because it had a fingerprint sensor, no. I mean, I would pretty much completely agree with Mark. It's kind of interesting, but it's not really going to make any difference to users for at least a couple of years until they can put it under the glass and as part of the screen so you don't have to have anything or whatever. Then we'll be interested. But yeah, it's kind of cool.
I think for me the interesting part is yes, it's under the glass, and they're not the first to announce fingerprint sensors that can be done under glass. Actually, far from it. I think they're one of the last. I think to me what is interesting is the fact that Samsung was rumored to buy fingerprint cards about a year ago.
It was a bit weird, wasn't it? They kind of came out and said, we're being acquired by Samsung, and then Samsung kind of went, no, you're not. And then they kind of went, oh, no, we're not, actually, no, you're right.
And I bet Samsung wish they'd bought them now, seeing as pretty much everyone licenses fingerprint cards tech. Very few people I know have positive things to say about Samsung fingerprint devices. They're not bad, but they're not great. Which is actually pretty much everything I've ever heard about Synaptics. So, do you want to speak about this last one real quick? Or should we just skip it?
Well, it's kind of cool. Adding a kind of touchscreen controls to your arm underneath a smartwatch.
Yeah, I
One
mean,
of those weird things that you kind of see. It's like that thing that you see every so often where you're going to project a keyboard onto the thing.
Oh god! All those it's always the next iPhone has a projectable keyboard onto the desk.
I actually did it on one of their machines that I had to go on, which was actually quite cool. But that's exactly the same as one of these touch controls.
Yeah. I mean, I had one of those IR laser keyboards that projects onto the desk, and you just touch on it. The problem is you are literally just tapping on wood, or if you're an idiot, glass. That really hurts your fingers.
What was the name of the motion control? Was it Leap Motion?
Leap Motion, yeah.
Yeah, that's this.
Oh god, no, that was way more pie in the sky. This is just this is your smartwatch. You can play Angry Birds.
It's the sort of thing that somebody would go, oh look, this is really cool, this is really clever, and 3 minutes later, not even 5, and they're like, okay, right, I'll never use that ever again.
Yeah, exactly. It's about as useful as gestures on a smartwatch. Yeah,
this will appear on nothing, and no one will buy it.
I bought and sold the Leap Motion within a month. Put it that way.
Somebody bought it from you?
Yeah.
How'd you manage that?
For very close to actually what I paid for it.
How on earth did you manage that? Was it somebody you really didn't like?
No, I'm just a really good bullshitter, apparently. But yeah, no, I kind of agree with what you're saying. It's cool whilst you're reading the article, and then you finish the article and it's like, well, that's never going to appear in anything.
I mean, it might appear on one thing, but it's like the Leap Motion or the Ouya. It's great for about
don't speak about the Ouya, or I get so upset when people speak about the Ouya.
It's great for 30 seconds, but this is going nowhere.
Okay, well that's like it for the news. I think kind of going to speak what we got in for review. I haven't got both of them with me, but I've got one of them. So this is the BQ Aquaris X5 Sanjin edition. This is really interesting. It's about 180 quid. Really nice metal. It's actually just like kind of an all-around like cool device. I think the most interesting thing about it is the fact that it's metal and it runs Sanjin OS, not the processor or the internals. And the fact that it's a company we've not really heard much about, which is BQ, a Spanish company that's kind of like bursting into the UK. The other one is actually something we joked about doing on the podcast a little while back, which is getting a Doro in for review. So Doro, if you
we
don't,
didn't joke about it. It was quite a serious, like.
Well, we joked about it, and then it became a serious thing, and then I actually contacted them, and then I actually got one. So, for those of you that don't know, Doro is a Swedish manufacturer that caters devices to people of the older generation. So,
well, not necessarily just older.
I got my nan to review one.
Yeah, so maybe for those with maybe visual or or sort of movement impediments.
Yes.
People who might appreciate great big buttons and stuff.
Yeah. So whilst it would be absolutely useless for me to review a Doro, I managed to rope my nan in to review one, which I should be having the photos taken in a couple of days. I'm also going to shoot a Q&A with her, because some people aren't going to want to read a review. They might just want to sit down and watch a little video. There's going to be a little video.
Well, especially if you have limited digit mobility, which again Doro is probably kind of really well suited for. I mean, I'm happy to sit and type away, multi-fingered and whatnot. But if I had maybe arthritis or some kind of like MS or any kind of degenerative issue, it could be the ideal device for you.
Yeah. So those are what I've got in for review. Mark, what have you got in the next week or so, seeing as you always have stuff?
Yeah, next week or so, things that I really have got to do because the bastards want it back, is this.
Oh no, you have to send something back for once. It's not like any of us have to do it every damn time.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, want it back. Bastards. But yeah, it's like 450 quid, so I kind of get why. But yeah, the Opus #1, and it seems to be Opus, both the name of the company and the name of the thing. This is an Android MP3 player, basically. Although you'd really never know it was Android. It's very heavily customized and skinned. But it's good. It sounds nice. It's fast as hell, and it has real hardware buttons on it, which is nice. Any
IEMs, balanced armatures, or over-the-ear headphones?
Yeah, there's a bunch of things.
I'm starting to learn audio terms here.
These should be coming soon. These are the High Sound Audio HS2s, and they apparently go for about $100.
They don't look it. I'm not gonna lie. They don't look that expensive. There doesn't seem to be enough translucent plastic for my liking.
Well, yeah, no. Most things don't have translucent plastic. There's also the other high sound thing that I mentioned the other week that's still sitting on the desk along with a whole heap of other stuff. Another thing I couldn't remember if I mentioned, but...
Wow, what is that?
That's a case.
Do you keep cannabis in there? What do you... Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, those are also kind of visually interesting. I really kind of need to get around to.
I like kind of the wire, like memory wire.
Oh right.
Yeah.
So those are quite good, and I need to kind of get around to. Basically, there's a whole heap of stuff. Most of it's been sitting for way too long, and I really need to get my arse and gear into it. The other thing that is going to be a little bit different is this.
What is that, Mark? For people that don't know, or people that listen to the audio version.
Yeah. Well, what do you think it is?
I know what it is, but I want you to tell them what it is.
Oh, okay. It's the EE Rook, otherwise known outside of the UK as the ZTE Blade A410.
Great name.
Catchy name, yeah. So for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it was phone EE came out with about must be pushing about a year ago, and it was billed as the UK's cheapest 4G phone. It recently got a price cut, so this cost me the sum total of £25 out of Argos.
Wow.
For a 4G phone.
Interesting.
Yeah, so although I suspect it may not live with me for very long and may go off to live with the nephew, still, 25 quid for a 4G capable phone.
Interesting.
You know, that's not bad. And can I just say, having put a SIM card that I can use in it and have been making phone calls with this, how nice is it to use a goddamn phone-sized device to make phone calls?
Oh, tell me about it. I've been playing around with the original Moto E for the last couple of days just because I've been... this is what my nan uses when she's not using the Doro. And it's like, oh, wait a sec, something I can hold in one hand. So it's been molded to the size of a hand.
Like, look, it fits. It fits. Yeah, you know, which is something that I found kind of a little bit strange. The fact that it just feels nice using a small device.
So, lastly, Greg, have you got anything to review at the moment?
I have literally nothing to review, so I'm like the opposite of you.
Oh, well, that's kind of like wah, wah. It's kind of.
If you've got nothing, the secret is dig through your stash of bits of random stuff and review something.
Yeah, actually, that is genuinely something I've done. But no, I think it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. Don't you guys agree, or?
Because of what?
Just like stuff we've got going behind the scenes as well.
Oh, that.
It's an interesting.
I'm gonna go with a couple of weeks. Aren't you being Mr. Optimism?
Hey, with the drugs I'm on, I better be optimistic. Like shitting hell. If I'm not, something is definitely wrong. So I think that is the end of this week's podcast. Slightly over my 1 hour preference, but whatever. As always, I am at mobile_dom on Twitter. Mark is at Mark2410. Greg is at GR36, I think.
Yep.
Cool. The site is at MTTFeed. We are www.mobiletechtalk.co.uk. Instagram, we are MobileTechTalk. Facebook, MobileTechTalk UK. YouTube and Google+, just search for MobileTechTalk. And last but not least, Patreon. Patreon.com/MobileTechTalk. If you give us some money, we can make better shit for you. Thank you guys for joining me this week, as always.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
See ya.
Goodbye.